drug shortages continue to plague the U.S., reaching near record levels. A new survey of pharmacists in the healthcare systems is making the consequences of those shortages even clearer. It was a survey of pharmacists working primarily in hospitals in healthcare systems across the U.S., but 99% of those pharmacists surveyed said that drug shortages are something they are experiencing. And in those top 5 drugs that are missing, chemotherapy drugs are up there, with 57% of pharmacists saying that they are critically impactful, quote, critically impactful with direct effects on patient care. In addition to delaying or canceling some treatments, 85% of pharmacists said they've rationed drugs, and 97% said they have had to change to a therapeutic alternative because of these shortages. Those are crazy numbers. Dante, are you seeing this as well?
Yes.
You're part of the 99%, huh?
Yes.
Ugh.
I mean, fortunately, we're not dispensing chemotherapeutic agents for the most part.
Right.
That's rough. That's a rough one to hear.
Yeah, that's really, really, really problematic.
Yeah. And not that the Adderall shortages and the GLP-1 shortages, not that those aren't serious too.
Right.
It's just when you logically think about somebody potentially being late to their chemo, quote unquote.
Having to delay chemotherapy is a really big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Man, oh man.
Yeah. But no, we see a lot of it. We have to navigate. It's tough. You know, we have to navigate it in a weird way because, you know, you're talking to a customer, you're talking to a patient, and you can't explain to them what what policies are going into place to prevent this for the future. And
sure.
There's steps being taken because that's not going to get somebody 30 days of their medication or whatever. It's not going to get them 90 days of something they were accustomed to getting 90 days worth of. So it is a tough conversation, but it's like it changes the cash flow for a pharmacy even.
Sure.
You're having to try and order things ahead of time in the event that, okay, we're seeing a spike in the usage of this. And so we want to make sure, since we have a lot of people on it, that now we got to create almost a stockpile of certain things. It's weird. And so I think there's a trickle effect with a lot of that, but I assume that that's not the main problem necessarily, is that these like spikes in demand, they certainly contribute.
Yeah.
But it's like the industry related problems that I think have been insidious.
I remember reading somewhere that there were ongoing issues with getting raw chemicals necessary to produce the drugs, that was one of the major issues. Mm-hmm. Is that's
definitely
accurate?
part of it.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I think a lot of it has to do with, maybe just like a retail pharmacy has to function as a business.
Yeah.
These manufacturing facilities have to function as a business, and they have to allocate their resources to the medications and to the active ingredients and sourcing them and such to the ones that are more profitable.
Yeah.
And so there are medications going on shortage that are almost surprising because it's they've been around for so long, but maybe it's because of this underlying decrease in resources put towards something that, it's not a driver for us. So if we, once we hit our capacity, sorry.
Yeah.
So I think that there's policy, with Congress and with working with the FDA to help maybe prevent some of that. I don't know if I pulled up a policy solution sheet from the ASHP, and they talked a lot about these different things. And for example, it's like you hear these big fancy changes: enforce existing shortage prevention requirements. So that's saying that things that were in place are not being really followed to a T by the manufacturing companies.
Yeah.
Improve transparency into manufacturer quality. There's issues with a medication getting recalled because they failed a standard that was overlooked for a while. And so that disrupts the chain of work. Encourage new manufacturers and new manufacturing sites. So how does something like that happen overnight?
Yeah,
it doesn't. It's maybe in 5 or 10 years, this problem is less prevalent. But again, how do you explain that to Mrs. Smith, that is used to getting her blood pressure medication with no issue.
Right.
before.
She didn't change, so why is everything else changing?
Right.
Wow.
Can I just add something real quick?
No.
Definitely not.
Honestly?
No.
No,
Add.
not
Well,
honestly.
so Dante, you said like maybe in 5 or 10 years this would be different. So in this same article, it says so right now 309 active drug shortages, second quarter of the year. But then they say this is the most there have been in nearly a decade, topped only by the third quarter of 2014 when there were 320 active shortages. So like what changed from 2014 till now? Like how'd they make those shortages? Like how did they meet those demands? And can we just fix those? You know, I understand there's probably a lot more
Nuance?
yes, and involved, but if it's a decade since we've had something like this, so I guess it would be 10 years from now, but
Yep.
it's happened before, so we can get out of the shortage again. I don't know.
Yeah. It's not that this excuse is going away by any stretch, or not that it wasn't a good excuse, but the changes that COVID brought about,
Yeah.
I think, you know, it's like you heard about the supply chain issues. My
Yep.
goodness, like the most generic way to talk about this. Like,
Yeah.
oh, supply chain, you know, it's affected everything. It's just
The fact that anybody knows what a supply chain is at this point is just evidence of how much it was disrupted.
right. Yeah. Anybody is talking about the supply chain.
Yeah.
I might get a chain.
Just a supply
Just a
chain.
supply on it. But in all seriousness, you're right. It is certainly possible to get back to where it was. And I think that that's what this ASHP overview was essentially talking about. It's like, okay, we have these things in place. We need to go back to making sure that we're holding manufacturers to the same standards.
Yeah.
You know, so that's one step. But now there are new problems. You know, I don't know. You can't really do much with tornadoes and wildfires. There's
Right.
those sorts of things.
Global pandemics.
Right. So it's just been this, I think it's just been a trickle down effect, you know, across the board. Yeah, I would like to dig into that a little more, but